again, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. The last video I did on this 6.5 PRC, it was kind of like an introduction to the channel, so I kind of wanted to do a quick overview of it. Today I'm going to be bedding the scope base to it. So anyway, I'm going to record that and show everyone how I do that. But anyway, so this is the 6.5 PRC. The weight of this is 6.3 pounds. So it's got the Remington style action, bolt action, M16 extractor design on it. So very nice. 24-inch barrel. Okay. Carbon fiber. 1 1/8 twist. It's got match grade trigger, 2.5 to 3.5 pounds. Of course, it's got a threaded barrel. The barrel thread pitch and everything is 5/8 by 24. Comes with a radial muzzle brake and everything. So the stock itself is it's green with black and tan webbing on it, carbon fiber, internal 4-round magazine. It's got the floor plate design. So anyway, the overall length is 43.5. I don't know if I mentioned that or not. So anyway, that's pretty much it. So now this is what I'm going to be putting on it. Okay, this is a scope base. I ordered it straight from Christensen Arms. Of course, it's one piece, 20 MOA, short action. It weighs 1.2 ounces. It also has recoil, the recoil lug and everything on it. I probably wouldn't have to bed this one. It seems like it's machined excellent, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. That way I know when I take it out in the field, I've got that confidence in it. One reason people bed them is because if you have any play, okay, say I mount these 2 screws and I've got play back here and I go ahead and torque these down the specs, I'm going to have that little arch in it. That arch is going to get transferred into those scope rings, and those scope rings are going to transfer that into the scope. So we're going to try to remove that error if there is any. Like I said, this stuff is this scope base here is very well machined. So I probably wouldn't have to do it. I did notice that there was just a hair bit of play there. It's not even enough to get a sheet of paper under it. So it's very minimal. So anyway, I just wanted to show you how you do that. And other than that, we'll go ahead and get started. Alright, so first thing you want to do is remove your bolt and make sure everything is always clear before you ever start working on your firearm. I've already removed the bolt in this. First thing, before bedding anything, you want to make sure the surface is clean, which I've already done. Now I'm going to put the Brownell's release agent on it. I was actually going to use acrylic glass, but I accidentally left one of the lids cracked, and anyway, it ended up drying out. So I'm going to end up using some JB Weld, and I'll show you that in a minute. But after everything's clean, just take and put all this to the surfaces. So you don't want that JB Weld to bond to anything, okay? So we're going to put this on all over. Just kind of brush it out, make it smooth. Okay. Like that. Yep, you definitely don't want that stuff to stick. Now, if you really don't care and you just want to bed it? No. I mean, you don't have to do this, but you know, it's going to take you a lot of work to get it off, that's for sure. Okay, so that's done. Now we're going to let that dry, and then after that we're going to mix up some JB Weld. Oops. Anyway, this is what we're going to use. I'm using this kind. It takes let's see, set time's 4 to 6 hours, so we're going to have time to work with it. So that's the reason I'm using this. Alright, our next step is you're going to want just a little bit of acetone to do all this, for to clean your metal parts. You can use a brake cleaner also. You just want everything to be degreased before you do this, because it's not going to stick to any, your epoxy's not going to stick to any oily surfaces anyway. So I'm going to take a little bit of this acetone, and we're going to clean the bottom of the scope base. Clean it off real good. Also, we're going to use acetone, any of it that kind of comes out and squeezes out around it. We're going to use acetone and Q-tips to clean all the epoxy off. So alright, we got that ready. Alright, so the next step, I'm going to take a little bit of grease. I'm actually using the Lucas gun grease. Just going to take a little bit of this and put on the end of a Q-tip. Okay, and I'm going to take and coat each one of the screw holes. Okay, just so that epoxy is not going to bond to the inside there. And I'm going to also coat each one of the screws with a little bit of grease before I mount it. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Put that over here. I'm just going to coat each one of these with a little bit of grease. Okay, that way it's not going to bond to the threads on the action or to the scope base. You can see that or not. I'm new at this, so putting everything on camera is kind of, different to me. So and when you work with these screws and everything, it's a good idea to get you one of these magnetized dishes. I'll show you in a second. And just so you don't lose any parts. Pick those up at Harbor Freight, and works out pretty good. Keeps you from losing things. So now I'm going to go ahead and mix up the epoxy. Alright. I'm sure all of you know how to do this, but we're going to try to do 50-50 there, approximately. Mix it up good. Also too, on your screw holes, you would want to make sure that you put something in there to kind of you know, lube the inside up so we don't have any epoxy get in there and keep your screws bonded to your action. You can also use something like a plumber's putty or something and put in there if you wanted to. I'm going to actually put the screws in each one of the holes. I'm only going to tighten up the front action screw when I do this. So once you get it in a pretty good consistency like that, you're going to take your scope rail and you're going to apply it. I'm going to try to stay away from the screw holes. I'm just going to apply it to it. I'm so sorry if I'm not getting this in the frame. I'm kind of paying attention to what I'm doing, not paying attention where the camera's at, so I apologize. I don't know why I'm shaking so bad, but so. Here I am again. I'm sorry. I apologize. Not holding it in the camera. You can also watch other videos. Other people do this. You can find other videos where other people are doing this too. So anyway. Let me use a Q-tip and try to clean this mess up here. Take it out of that screw hole. You can see what I'm doing here. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm trying to keep it in the frame. So that's done there. Alright, the next thing we're going to do, if I can hold this right here, is we're going to line up our screws. Alright, now I've coated each one of the screws in oil already, so I'm going to put this one in, that front one's the only one I'm going to tighten up. Okay, and remember, when you're doing this, your short screw always goes in the front on these. So and make sure, you know, you put a little bit of oil on them, on your screws, because you don't want that epoxy to bond to it. Okay. Now the screws are just in there, so I'm going to go ahead and just tighten this up just enough. I'll go ahead and take those down just a hair. I don't want to put any pressure on it. I just want them in there just good enough, you know, because I don't want that epoxy to squeeze up in there. I want the epoxy to stay there and actually do its job as far as, you know, taking out any kind of imperfections or whatever. So that's that. Now once you do that, you want to get a little bit of acetone, okay? And some Q-tips. Make sure you have some Q-tips on hand. Okay. You're going to get your acetone, get you a Q-tip, and just clean it up. Clean up all that epoxy that's squeezed out. Okay. When you do this, make sure you have extra Q-tips. Because it's going to take several of them. Okay. So I don't bore you to death, I'm going to go ahead and shut it down, but you get the idea. I'm going to go ahead and clean this up, and then once it's all dry and everything, we'll come back, I'll remove it, and I'll show you what it looks like. Alright, real quick, I wanted to sum up what we did. So the first thing we did is we cleaned all our surfaces, okay? The second thing we did is we put some sort of release agent to the top of the action, okay? You can actually use shoe polish, Johnson's floor wax, even a little thin layer of grease or something, just so it doesn't bond. I don't recommend using grease, but if you had to, you had to. But anyway, a lot of people use the shoe polish or the Johnson's floor wax. I actually used the Brownell's release agent for the AccuGlass, okay? So once we got that done, we went and cleaned our metal up to our scope base, okay? Made sure it was free of oil. Next thing we did is we mixed up our epoxy, and then we applied it, okay? Alright, once we got that done, we took the front screw for the base, put that in. It's the only screw we tighten up, and you don't tighten it down to torque. You just tighten it up enough to where it starts moving that epoxy out, okay? Now each one of your screws needs to have something on it as a release agent, okay? Because that epoxy is going to move around and it's going to go around those screw threads. So you have to make sure that they're coated in something like oil, grease, Johnson's floor wax, shoe polish, something, okay? But they need to be coated so you can get them back out. Alright, these screws here, they are not tight, okay? I can still put my screwdriver on them right now and still turn them. They're not tight. See, I can turn that, it's free. They are only in there to keep everything lined up. The only one that is tight is this one. So now everything's done and we're gonna wait for it to dry. I know I said it last time, but I just wanted to do a summary of everything. Now some people want this to be permanent. You can make it permanent by not putting any release agent on it, okay? Down here, you still want to do everything to your screws and whatnot, but once that's attached and you do it permanently, you are not going to get it off without doing some sort of work to it. And I don't recommend doing that because, you know, if I ever want to take this off and maybe put a different, you know, scope base on it or something, I want to be able to remove it. I don't want to take a risk of, you know, damaging anything, trying to get it off. So anyway, that's that. Once it dries, I'm going to take all the screws out, tap it a little bit with a little hammer, and we'll remove it, and then we'll clean everything up, degrease everything again, degrease the holes. Then we'll get the blue Loctite out. We'll torque everything to specs, which is I think 22 inch-pounds. So anyway, I'll show you how I do everything, and anyway, yeah, we'll be back. Okay, so it's been about 9 hours. So this is stuff we mixed up earlier, and it's pretty good. Now it's not fully cured yet, but it takes like 24 hours for it to fully cure. But we're going to go ahead and take this thing off and see what we got. So I'm going to take these screws out. Then I'm going to put them in a dish and I'll put acetone on them to clean everything up. Now I never tighten these screws up all the way, so alrighty. There we go. Alrighty. And there it is. See there? And this here is the Brownell's release agent right there. You see? Everything came off nice and neat. Alright, so now we got that off, we need to clean up all this again. Want to make sure we clean the screw holes out and get all the oil that we put on the screws, you know, in order to keep it from seizing up in there, you know, from the epoxy seizing up around the threads. We need to clean out those screw holes because we're going to use some blue Loctite, and we want the oil out of it in order for the Loctite to work. So we're just going to clean this out with acetone. Just like that. Anyway, I'm not going to bore you anymore with this as far as cleaning things, but you just want to make sure that you get all the oil off, clean everything up nice, clean all this out. But I mean, y'all get the idea. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and mount this. So I got torque wrench made by Wheeler Engineering. I'll be using to torque it up. Got my blue Loctite here. So I'm taking, just put a little bit on the threads, drop it in. Just gonna start it. I know I'm probably boring y'all, but somebody might like to watch all this. Alright. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this forward like this. Reason I'm doing that, every time you shoot, as the rifle kicks back, everything wants to go forward. So we want to make sure that we push this forward. And I always start in the middle and I work my way out. Just like this. And I usually start at like 10-inch pounds and I'll work my way up. And just torque it up as I go. That was 15-inch pounds. Now I'm going to go up to 20, and then we'll be done. Alright, and that's that. Let me clean that up real quick. And there you have it. Alright, well, that wraps it up for today. Anyway, I hope this was helpful for you. I still got to mount rings and put a scope on, and I plan on showing you the break-in process, because you're supposed to break in these barrels a certain way. So I'm going to go ahead and hopefully we can do that out on the range, and I'll show you how to do that. But until next time, shoot straight.